This is a short movie showing GelPro Analyzer version 6.3 and how to perform colony counting from tissue culture plates. Starting off, I've already launched GelPro Analyzer version 6.3. In most cases, starting fresh, the experimental dialog box will start up, and here I have it shown to show this dialog at startup. If this dialog does not show up, simply go to the File menu and select Experiment, which will bring this dialog up from here. The first thing to do is choose what type of experiment you would like to run. You can access that from here under Function Type, and here we'll select Colony Counting, which will bring up the colony counting dialog box. The next step is, if you wish to save these experimental settings for later use, you can enter in title, for example the name of the experiment, who did the experiment, and a brief description. After we run the experiment and satisfied with all of our settings, we can simply save the experiment that we can use later on, or recreate the experiment using the same image. The next step is to open an image. In this case, I'll just go to Open. I'll select my colony, and then we'll go through the experimental setup. There are two ways to do colony counting within GelPro. The first method is an auto find, which will automatically try to locate the plate, identify the center, and perform the colony counting. The second method is to manually define the plate, set the segmentation based upon intensity information, whether it's manually setting the segmentation range, automatic dark or automatic bright colonies, whether you're doing bright field or fluorescence. And then there's a series of options about how the colonies will be analyzed. So let's do this manually first. So here, just working from top to bottom, is a series of options, and this is going to tell us how to display the information on the image. In this case, this is showing a little graphic of how the information will be displayed. It will be showing an outline of the colony, what number of colony it is, and the labels will be put in blue. There's a few options here about how the colonies will be counted. One of the important ones is fill holes. If you have a colony which is, say, dark on the outside and dim, or I should say bright on the inside, sort of like a donut, fill holes will fill that complete colony so it can be counted. Clean borders is, if we set an area of interest or region of interest around the colony, anything touching the edges will not be counted. In this case, that may be important where we have this little dark edge, the shadow effect, and depending how we set our segmentation range to identify the colonies, you may end up counting anything touching this edge. So we may go through an example of that in a few minutes. Let me just leave this on pre-filter. The second step is to select area. In this case, since I'm not doing it automatically, I want to define the area on the plate I want to measure. Simply by selecting area, it's defined my region of interest. You can see my cursor is now changed, and I can simply draw my area or my region of interest. If I hold down the Shift key, that'll form that into a complete circle, a round circle. We can position it however we need to. Let me just kind of drag that out a little bit here. I'll leave it a little bit on the inside edge there. Keep it inside that shadow. Right, our next choice is filters. These are the various parameters in GelPro that we can measure for the colonies. In this case, area, density, area box. There's a number of different ways, both intensity and morphometric parameters, to define your colonies. Here ones like luminance, diameter. So you can also use these to include or exclude objects that may be counted. In this case, colonies. So this is a filter. There, you're setting a series of gates that, in essence, to be counted as an object or a colony, they must pass. I'm going to set this a little higher because I know actually this right now is in pixels. This image is not spatially calibrated, but if it was, I would set this in calibrated units, whether it's microns or something like that. I'm going to set that just a little higher and say OK. Once I've set my filter selection, I now need to tell GelPro what to count. In this case, I can choose to manually define the segmentation range or threshold intensities I want to measure, which define my colonies, automatic dark colonies or automatic bright colonies. In this case, I'm going to manually define them. You can see I'm picking up a little bit too much. There we go, and now I'm starting to pick up all of my colonies, as you can see. When I'm satisfied with that, I can simply press close and then press count. And now this is showing me all the individual colonies that I've measured. You see I missed one here I may have filtered that out by size or some other parameter. So now, once I'm happy with this, it tells me how many I've counted, how many in range. I can simply view my data set. In this case, for each and every colony it's counted, it's telling me the area. Again, this is now in square pixels, it's not calibrated, and the intensity information based upon each colony. Once I have the data table, I can simply go to File and export this to Excel. There are some options about how this can export. You can choose how to increment the data, especially if you're doing multiple images. Once we're fine with the settings, we can then press Save, which will then save the complete setup. Let me just delete this count quickly and show another example of auto-find. Let me take off the region of interest. The second method of colony counting within GelPro is auto-find. Here, it's an automatic process. By simply pressing auto-find, it will go through and automatically determine where the region of interest is within the plate and try to set that and automatically count that. What that will also do is give you a little further information. This is also in classifying it, where it's estimating where there may be clusters where it hasn't done any object splitting. There's also object splitting tools available within GelPro for splitting, auto-splitting, merging, and also removing colonies that should not be counted. At this point, you can also export the data file. And you also have available to you the complete data set. Thank you very much. For more information, please contact your Media Cybernetics dealer or your local sales office. Thank you.